There are lots of financial talking heads out there, but there's only one who's local to Tucson. Welcome to Saving with Silverman. Mark Silverman is a certified financial planner, and he's here to help you with your financial questions. Today, we'll try to educate you about the financial world and encourage you to think of solutions to your financial goals. So, let's get started. Saving with Silverman starts now.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman of Silverman & Associates in Tucson, serving all of southern Arizona. We appreciate your being with us today. If you'd like to get in touch with Mark Silverman, there's an easy way to do that. Here's the phone number. You can call or text 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. Call or text that number, and a member of Mark's team will get back with you, and then you can set a time to come in. And you don't have to have any financial information in front of you right now or anything. Don't worry about the numbers. You can just call the number, get in contact, and then you can work it out later. 520-333-7601. Mark, I trust that you've had an outstanding week, and I am happy to be with you today. And you remember this old song by Molly Hatchet called Flirting with Disaster?
I do.
Kind of a southern rock tune. I thought today we would talk about some areas of your financial life where you might be flirting with disaster and not even know it. First of all, you might have some legal documents that are woefully out of date, and you just haven't thought about them in a long time, but that could get you in a little bit of trouble, couldn't it?
It can. I mean, it's important to have, your stuff reviewed. And I'm not saying everybody needs to have, a trust and that sort of thing, but you need to have some type of plan as far as, at least wills and that sort of thing. But as far as, how your estate's going to be handled if something happens, or when that time happens, I should say. And if you do have those, you should review those or have somebody review them with you at least every 5 years, whether it's through an estate planning attorney or if you're doing it yourself, that sort of thing. But it's important that they have them reviewed and updated, because as your situation changes, the laws also change. So it's important. And if you come from a different state and they were established in another state, you want to make sure that they apply to Arizona if that's where you are now. So it's important to do, we say, every 5 years.
So basically, it's very important to keep everything up to date. And number 2 on my list here is incorrect beneficiary designations. I know that you have dealt with some folks in the past who found out that they had incorrect designations and they were really upset about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is an important one, and this is something that we do when we bring on clients. So this is part of our process, as well as looking at the estate plan and reviewing that, but looking at beneficiary designations and making sure that those are correct. People that you may have listed may no longer be important to you. They may no longer be alive. There's lots of different reasons. So it's important, and beneficiary designations override any wills or trusts, et cetera. So it's important that you make sure that those are correct. I'll give you one example, Ron, which I've used before. Is I had a gentleman who came in from the radio several years ago. He had told me that he was divorced. He had one son. I was reviewing his documents, and I noticed that there was a female listed as the primary beneficiary on his IRA account with a major brokerage firm here in town. Uh-oh. And I said, "Do you know who this person is?" He goes, "That's my ex-wife." I said, "Well, she's the beneficiary of your IRA. If something were to happen to you, that's who the money goes to." He goes, "No, I told my guy to change it." I said, "Well, it's right here on your statement. You wouldn't really have an argument because you're getting a monthly statement which lists her name on here." And he had it on there, and I guess he'd been divorced for many years. And I said, "You need to make that change over here, because if you don't, she's the one that's going to be getting this money."
What a disaster that would be. And that's happened, I'm sure, in some cases. Where
I've seen it many times.
Yeah, where the person is married again, but the current wife doesn't get anything, and the beneficiary is the ex-wife that, he hasn't seen in 20 years.
Or you have people named in there that are no longer living. I mean, there's all sorts of things. It's important to review those.
What about if you have a tax time bomb ticking? And you could really be flirting with disaster in this case.
Yeah, and that could be in many different accounts, but a lot of times it's accounts where maybe that you're in some investments that aren't very tax favorable, and you're going to get penalized for when you do cash them out, or when you have to cash them out. A lot of times, could be like an IRA or 401k, where you hit the age 70 and a half, and now you're required to take distributions out, and you're unaware of what that amount is. And maybe you have a lot of other income. Maybe you're lucky enough to have some pension income, and taking that distribution is going to put you in a higher tax bracket. And, there's things that you can do to be more proactive. So maybe that's not as big of a burden if you're doing things prior years and strategizing a little versus just reacting to the situation. So it's important that you work with someone who does work in the tax planning arena. A lot of advisors, unfortunately, are just looking there to sell products. They don't really take the taxes in consideration. And I've said this before, it's not about what you make, it's what you make after fees and taxes have been paid.
Mark Silverman is your certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates. You can go to savingwithsilverman.com. Don't just take my word for it. He's helped a lot of people. Go to, again, that website is savingwithsilverman.com. I'll give you that number. You can get in touch with the office coming up in just a few minutes here. We're talking about flirting with disasters, some serious situations where folks might not be aware that they're building up some problems, potentially. How about having no plan for long-term care expenses? I know that's probably the case with the majority of people.
Yeah, and we do comprehensive financial planning, Ron. I know you know that. But for those of you listening, it's important that you work with someone who's going to look at the whole picture. And more often than not, a lot of people don't address the long-term care situation or what the strategy is going to be, which basically means that if you haven't addressed it, you're planning on paying for it out of pocket, which may be a strategy. But it's important. There are some other options out there other than buying traditional long-term care insurance that can help pay for these, where you can actually leverage your dollars to pay for long-term care expenses. And it's an important conversation to have now so you understand what options are available to you, because too many times people are unaware, or that they find out when it's too late, or maybe they've had a family member that had to go in and they go, well, I need to do this. But if you haven't had experience with it, you don't know. So it's important that you work with someone who understands that. And I can tell you, I don't have numbers for 2018, but I can tell you last year here in Tucson, the cost for a private room average was $100,000 a year. And if you think the average stay is 3 years, that's $300,000 that you're going to have to pay if you or your spouse have to go into a nursing home, a nursing care facility.
Wow, that is extremely expensive, and it's only going to get worse. It's only getting more expensive.
Those prices are rising dramatically faster than inflation.
Yeah. How about if I were to say to you, Mark, I have the classic 60-40 portfolio. What is that exactly, and why am I flirting with disaster?
Well, you may or may not be with that. I mean, so 60-40 means you have 60% stocks, 40% bonds, and that's a typical balanced investor. Most investors aren't just typical. We don't just do one size fits all type of planning. We customize everything for our clients. And so just because you're a certain age, a certain amount closer to retirement, whatever it might be, it doesn't mean you should be in a certain portfolio. Everybody's risk preference, risk tolerance is different. Plus where you are in relation to retirement, what age you may be retiring, what's your life expectancy, all these different factors need to be taken in consideration, as well as what your goals and objectives are to make sure that the risk you're taking is appropriate to help you achieve those goals. So all these things need to play a part in figuring this out. So having somebody just put everybody in the same bucket is not going to help you. You want some more customization, that somebody's going to take the time to listen to figure out what it is that you're trying to achieve, and that's going to be willing to take the time to put a portfolio together for you that's going to work for you, and adjust that and monitor it on an ongoing basis as your needs change and evolve.
There may be some people listening to the show right now, Mark, who may be flirting with disaster and they don't know it. How can you help them, and what happens when they come into your office?
Well, Ron, whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your opportunity to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process that we call the financial physical. I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we're going to discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP, such as myself, can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone, however, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
The number to call is 520-333-7601. Again, that's 520-333-7601. Call or text. Now, let's say you're driving around in your car right now. You don't have your calendar in front of you. You don't have any of your numbers in front of you. Don't worry about that. Just go ahead and reach out with a phone call right now. You can work out the details later. A member of Mark's team will get back with you, and you can set a time to come in and have a convenient conversation. It's going to be a very comfortable get-together. It's kind of a getting to know you session. There's no pressure. There's no salesmanship involved. Just come in, find out what it's all about, and then you can walk away if you like, but you may become a client. Who knows? Mark Silverman has helped a lot of people in the area for a long time. 520-333-7601. Again, call or text 520-333-7601. You're listening to Saving with Silverman with, of course, Mark Silverman.
You finished school and worked hard to get your first job. You told yourself you'd save for retirement, but that old jalopy you bought when you were 16 broke down, so you bought a new one. You started to save, and soon you bought your first home. Then came pets, kids, and your world changed some more. You worked hard to provide for your family. You made sure your kids got a good education. You might be sending them to school right now, or maybe it's the grandkids' turn. And of course, you're now making sure your parents are looked after. Through the years you lovingly sacrificed for your family, now it's time to take care of you. Love others well by taking care of yourself. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman to discover how to build a financial plan that'll continue providing for you and the ones you love for years to come.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here, along with Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. If you'd like to get in touch with Mark, here's your number to call. It is 520-333-7601. Call or text. That's 520-333-7601. Mark, of course, certified financial planner, professional, founder and managing member of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. And Mark, let's talk fact or fiction. There are a lot of crazy things going around out there in the financial world. A lot of people believe some things that just aren't true. But again, there are certain truths in the financial world as well. Fact or fiction, your Social Security is taxable. Or what about that one?
Well, that I would have to say is a fact. I mean, in some cases it's not going to be, but for many of our clients, unfortunately, Social Security is going to be taxable. Either 50 or 85% of it is, depending on your income level. So for most of our clients, I would say almost all of them, Social Security, unfortunately, is taxable. And for, like I said, for most people, that's going to be a reality. So that's a fact.
Yeah, a lot of people walking around thinking my Social Security is not going to be taxable, and that is not true. So get that out of your head, and Mark Silverman can clear up any questions you have about Social Security as well. Here's another one for you. Fact or fiction, your taxes will likely be lower in retirement.
Well, unfortunately, I would have to say that is probably fiction. I was trained when I started this business over 20 years ago. We were trained to tell people that, you put money in an IRA, a traditional IRA, and it's tax deductible. And so the money going in is tax deferred. And then when you pull the money out, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Unfortunately, it's been my experience that that's not necessarily the case, because what happens is you don't have all the deductions. Usually the kids are out of the house. A lot of times the house is free and clear, and so there's no mortgage. And now mortgage interest, may not be deductible anyways. It's a whole nother situation. But you don't have all the deductions that you had when you were working. So you may not be, and if you have a pension, those sorts of things, they start to add up, and there's not a lot of things that you can do. You could have your assets managed more tax efficiently, but as far as income that's coming in, sometimes it's a tough one. So unfortunately, taxes aren't necessarily going to be lower in retirement than they are when you're working.
Unfortunately, a lot of people walking around out there right now thinking that, when I retire, my taxes are going to be lower, and that's not necessarily the case. Here's another one for you. Fact or fiction, term life insurance is better than whole life insurance.
Well, they're two different things. They're both insurance. Term is obviously, for people that don't know, is cheaper, but I think something like 98% of all term policies never pay out a benefit. So yes, it's cheap, but the money you're paying into it probably will never be paid out. So you're able to use that insurance, but you're not getting anything for it, versus a whole life policy, and there's different variations of that as well, are permanent, so they are going to pay out at some point. The nice thing with the permanent policies are that they can be used for different things. You can use them these days for tax-free retirement income, which we do with some self-employed people. We can also use some of these policies to cover long-term care expenses. So there's other uses for life insurance other than what most people think. And so I think there's a whole lot more uses with permanent policies than there is term, but it just depends on what you can afford and what the goal is, what you're trying to accomplish.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. I'm Ron Stutz. We're talking about fact or fiction. And here's another one on the list here. Mark, Medicare will cover most of your medical needs in retirement.
That, unfortunately, is fiction. They are not going to cover most. They'll cover some, but not most. And for those people that are on Medicare, you understand what I mean. If you have a good supplement, that can help quite a bit as well. And even that doesn't cover completely everything. But it's important that you understand what is covered and what's not covered, and making sure that you have a policy that's going to meet your needs if you need a supplement or whatever you choose to do.
And one more here on the list of fact or fiction. As you get older, you should gradually shift from stocks to bonds. Is that good advice?
I think that happens, not necessarily with everybody. I'm not saying you need to reposition your portfolio, but people do tend to become more conservative as time goes on, as they get close to retirement, and certainly in retirement. Is that true with everybody? No, but that generally happens. And so it's important that you adjust your portfolio as time goes on, and you should certainly be rebalancing at least once a year if you're not doing that. But I would say that would probably be maybe a fact, but not necessarily. So I don't know if that would be fact or fiction. That certainly is the case for most people, but not everybody.
This is the information age, they say, and there's a lot of information out there. Unfortunately, there is also a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of our listeners may need to get certain things cleared up. There's also no one size fits all, so something that works out for one person may not work out for the other, and so that's why you need to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman. And Mark, what happens when someone reaches out with a phone call and arranges a time to come in and get to know you?
Well, just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're a do-it-yourselfer or already working with someone, this is now your chance to go through this process that we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not going to be a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we'll address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as I'm sure you're aware by now, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson, and the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and a chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone, however, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. Again, that number to call or text is 520-333-7601. Now, you and I both know that this is something that's really easy to procrastinate on. It seems like a really easy thing to put off until tomorrow or put off until next week or next month. But go ahead and do it now, and then you don't have to worry about it. The reality is that the sooner you start, the better off you'll be. Go ahead and make that phone call. Don't have to worry about any numbers. Don't have to even talk to a person right now. Just reach out, call, leave a message on this number that I just gave you, and then you can arrange a time to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman. 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. Get the financial physical. No cost, no obligation. Ron Stutz here along with Mark Silverman. This is Saving with Silverman.
earn the path to a worry-free retirement. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman, Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. And the number to call or text to get in touch with Mark's office is 520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. If you live in Tucson or anywhere really in southern Arizona, Mark has folks that he helps all over the place. Individuals, couples, families, and even sometimes different generations. 520-333-7601. Call or text. You get your certified financial planner professional. You can arrange a time to come in and have a conversation with Mark. 520-333-7601. Again, you can call or you can text to that number. And Mark, it's time to go to the request line. And as always, we have some good questions. And here's a really good one from Jake in Oro Valley. Jake says, should I be investing differently as a result of the new Trump tax laws?
Jake, that's a great question. Potentially, yeah, there could be some things that you should be doing differently. It depends on your situation and what kind of things you're looking to invest in, if they're IRA accounts or non-IRA accounts, those sorts of things. But yeah, it could change the way that you are investing. In fact, I'm actually going to attend, I go to quite a few conferences each year, but I'm attending one next month that's going to actually cover that topic. That's one of the things that they're going to be speaking about. So it is smart that you're thinking like that, but it's going to have an impact on the investing landscape for sure.
I would imagine a lot of people have questions about that right now, and that's just another reason why it's so important to talk with a planning professional like Mark Silverman, a certified financial planner professional, the founder and managing member of Silverman and Associates. And here's our next question from Charlie, and this is from Vail. Charlie says he's getting a big tax refund this year and has for the last several years. It's nice to get the refund, but he wants to know if he's better off to just keep more money throughout the year.
Charlie, that's a great question. I'm a fan of, I know a lot of people like to get the big tax refund because it's nice. It's a forced way of savings. Unfortunately, this is your own money that you're saving, and it's in the form of you're lending the government money throughout the year in a loan that you're earning zero interest on. So the ultimate goal is for it all to weigh out. So you end up having to not pay anything, or you get a refund that's very little, or you pay very little. That's usually the way it's supposed to work. So you may want to, back off some of your withholding if you're still working, that sort of thing. And so you don't get as much of a refund, and then maybe you can utilize that money to put into, if you're still working, retirement accounts, or build up your savings, or invest in things that are going to actually grow, because that money that you're getting has been sitting there earning 0% interest for that whole year. So that's my advice, but great question.
And one more question today in the request line, Olivia in Marana. Olivia says, my husband and I always argue because I want to redo our kitchen, but he says we need to save more money for retirement. We already save a lot. How much is enough?
Olivia, that's a great question too. You can never save too much, I can tell you that, but you also need to maintain a decent lifestyle while you're still working. So it's important to save, but you've also, got to enjoy life through those years too. I can tell you through our planning process, a kitchen remodel is up there for a lot of times. I can't tell you how many times this year. It must have been 3 or 4 times so far that I've been working with people this year alone where kitchen remodel was a goal that they want, and usually at the request of the wife, understandably. But I think it's important that you have a plan. That way you know if you're saving enough or if you're not saving enough. That way you can do some of those things that you want to do that maybe your husband feels you can't afford to because he's pushing you to save. And that's not a bad thing to save. But you maybe, again, you can't be saving too much, but maybe you're not doing the things that you enjoy doing because you are saving too much, or you're avoiding things that you should be doing. So it's important that you have a plan, and that way you know exactly where you stand and what things you can afford to do right now and what things you can't, if you're on track for your goals and objectives. But that's a great point.
Olivia, maybe your kitchen badly needs a remodel and you want to do that. Come in and talk with Mark Silverman. Charlie in Vail has tax questions, and so does Jake in Oro Valley. We appreciate all those questions. Best thing to do is not only listen to the radio show, but come in and get specific, personalized information directly tailored to your needs. And I know that all you got to do is make a phone call, and you can come in and talk with Mark Silverman, get to know him. He can get to know you. And Mark, what do you offer those folks?
Sure, Ron. Well, we've had some great questions, and I just want to remind everybody, if you go to our website, which is savingwithsilverman.com, you click on the media tab and click radio, you can submit your question, and maybe you'll hear it here on the air. So I want to thank everybody for submitting those questions, and if you have questions, feel free to go to the website and submit yours as well. And now's my chance to ask you a question, and I want to see if you can answer it honestly and objectively as possible. Aside from the happy hellos and how's the family, and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I mean, I get it. I'm as much friends with many of my clients. They become true friends over the many years. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? And I'll repeat, is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and risk and diversification and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews, but hopefully it's more frequently than that? Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If you are, if all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. Or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Go ahead and call this number right now, 520-333-7601. Call or text if you prefer to do that, 520-333-7601. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're not going to have to talk to anybody today at all. You're not going to have to know anything about your numbers in front of you, anything like that. Just call that number, and then a member of Mark's team will get back with you first part of the week, and you can arrange a time to come in and have that all-important phone conversation. If you're calling, just leave a voicemail. If you're texting, just leave your first and last name, and someone will get back with you. Again, Saving with Silverman, the number is 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. The financial physical is not going to cost you a thing, and there is absolutely no obligation to come in and have a conversation with Mark. And Mark, I know you make it easy for folks to come in and get to know you, and it's important for you to get to know them, since there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to retirement planning.
Absolutely, Ron. I mean, we try our best to provide some general information, but to get specific, we really need to sit down with you and have a conversation. So, now's the time to take action. I mean, obviously, the markets have been extremely volatile and may continue to be this way for the remainder of the year. So it's important that you take a look at what you're doing.
Join us again next week for the next edition of Saving with Silverman.
Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.